Donald Trump is furious. While he campaigns on bringing America back to the world stage, a new one is being built without him. In Beijing, a major diplomatic summit is underway, with world leaders forging alliances and shaping global security. But there's a conspicuous absence. No American flag, no seat at the table. For a man who thrives in the spotlight, the silence from the East is deafening. This is the same man who once prided himself on personal diplomacy, bragging about special friendships with Xi Jinping and Kim Jong-un. He showcased grand photo ops and historic handshakes, claiming his unique deal-making could solve any crisis. He believed he could pick up the phone and bend world affairs to his will. But those days are over. The smiles have vanished. The handshakes, once symbols of a new era, are replaced with a calculated, cold distance. The personal relationships he banked on have crumbled under the weight of geopolitical reality. At the latest SCO summit, this shift became impossible to ignore. In a stunning display of coordinated diplomacy, Russia's Vladimir Putin and North Korea's Kim Jong-un didn't return home. Instead, they flew directly to Beijing for a trilateral meeting with Xi Jinping. This was no coincidence. It was a meticulously planned demonstration of an emerging power bloc, a deliberate show of unity aimed squarely at Washington. They are signaling that the world's geopolitical map is being redrawn, building a coalition to challenge American dominance. From the sidelines, Trump saw it and lashed out with familiar fury, accusing them of a grand conspiracy, of plotting against America. But beneath the noise lies a harsher truth. This isn't just a plot against America, it's the consequence of its own actions. Years of aggressive tariffs, unilateral sanctions, and a relentless America First doctrine were meant to reassert dominance. Instead, they created a power vacuum, pushing rivals closer together and accelerating their efforts to build a world where Washington's voice is no longer the loudest in the room. The parade in Beijing wasn't just about soldiers and flags. It was a statement. China unveiled nuclear subs, mobile launchers, swarms of drones, and row after row of disciplined troops. The real shock? Hypersonic missiles, capable of wiping out aircraft carrier groups in minutes. From Guam to South Korea, US bases that once seemed untouchable suddenly looked vulnerable. The message was crystal clear. China is no longer catching up. It now stands as a direct equal, prepared to challenge US military power in Asia. For decades, Washington wielded economic sanctions as its most potent non-military weapon. The strategy leveraged the US dollar's dominance and control over financial networks like SWIFT. By cutting off a nation's finance and restricting its trade, the goal was economic strangulation, leading to political collapse. But the geopolitical landscape is shifting. This once unassailable playbook is now failing as a new economic order provides alternatives. Consider North Korea, under one of history's most comprehensive sanctions regimes. Its economy should have imploded years ago, yet it endures. The reason is a lifeline from its neighbour. China accounts for over 98% of North Korea's external trade, providing a steady flow of essentials, food, fuel and machinery that bypasses Western restrictions. In 2023 alone, this bilateral trade topped $2 billion, proving that when a major power provides an alternative, sanctions lose their coercive power. A more dramatic example is Russia. Following the 2022 invasion of Ukraine, the West unleashed unprecedented sanctions. Forecasts predicted a catastrophic contraction with double-digit GDP losses. But the collapse never came. Instead, the Russian economy recalibrated, growing by a surprising 3.6% in 2023. While slowing, growth continues, inflation is easing, and the ruble staged a remarkable recovery after its initial crash. The reason is a strategic pivot eastward. China became the central pillar, absorbing Russian energy exports and providing crucial revenue. Beijing offered alternative payment systems to circumvent SWIFT and extended loans through its state-owned banks. This economic backstop, bolstered by increased trade with nations like India, created a parallel ecosystem. It effectively shields sanctioned states like Moscow and Pyongyang from collapse, signaling the rise of a multipolar economic world no longer dominated by the West. Washington once used the dollar as a hammer. Step out of line and your reserves could be frozen or your banks cut off from SWIFT. But that power is eroding. Russia-China trade now exceeds $240 billion, mostly settled in rubles and yuan, bypassing the dollar entirely. Oil, gas and food move outside Washington's reach. Countries like Saudi Arabia and Brazil openly explore alternatives. For the first time in decades, the dollar's dominance is showing cracks. And with US debt now past $37 trillion, even America's own allies are asking, how long can this last? Western sanctions on Russian oil were meant to cripple its economy, but they've been systematically circumvented. A shadow fleet of aging tankers operating under obscure flags with disabled transponders moves millions of barrels daily. These vessels conduct risky ship-to-ship transfers, far from regulatory eyes. The G7's price cap is routinely ignored, with oil sold well above the threshold. The result is a steady flow of billions into Moscow's war chest, funding its military efforts. Simultaneously, a more permanent economic artery is being forged. The Power of Siberia 2 pipeline is advancing, set to deliver 50 billion cubic meters of Russian gas to China annually. This isn't just an energy deal, it's a profound geopolitical realignment. It gives Beijing a secure overland fuel source for its industries, insulated from maritime choke points, while guaranteeing Moscow a massive long-term revenue stream. For the West, it represents a critical economic relationship where US leverage is virtually non-existent. This cooperation extends even further. An emerging bloc, China, Russia, Iran and North Korea, is constructing a parallel system outside Western-led institutions. The synergy is clear. Ballistic missiles from Pyongyang to Moscow, lethal drones from Tehran, cheap gas from Russia, and crucial financing from Beijing. This is more than transactional trade. It is the deliberate assembly of a strategic counterweight, designed to challenge US influence and reshape the global order. Trump's tariffs were supposed to punish China. Instead, they punished America. US companies pay more for components. Consumers pay more at checkout. Farmers lost parts of their biggest market. Meanwhile, China deepened ties with Russia, Africa, Latin America, and the Middle East. Belt and road projects, ports, railways, highways bind nations closer to Beijing. Where Washington lectures, Beijing invests, and every deal shifts influence eastward. America pours billions into new ships, jets, and missile defense systems. But every new Chinese hypersonic missile makes those investments feel less secure. Trump's latest outburst, accusing Xi, Putin and Kim of conspiring, reveals the uncomfortable reality. US influence is shrinking faster than Washington admits. And his old line, "Only I can negotiate," no longer works. These leaders don't need US mediation. They're writing their own rules, forming their own alliances, and shaping a future where America isn't even in the room. What we're witnessing isn't just tension, It's transformation. Sanctions are losing bite, tariffs are backfiring, and the balance of power is tilting. The question is simple. Is the United States prepared for a world where it no longer holds the central seat of power? Or is Washington already being pushed to the sidelines of history? If you want to follow where this shift leads, hit subscribe and turn on notifications. The next chapter is already being written.